Do you want to start an eBay niche store in 2021? In today's video, I'm going to be going over my top 10 choices of what you should be selling on eBay and why. Now, you might want to start a niche store for a couple reasons. First of all, you'll increase your conversions because all the customers coming to your store could possibly put through multi-quantity orders when looking at your store and finding other things similar to what they're looking to buy. Another thing is it can allow you to be way more knowledgeable in terms of what you're sourcing and what you're selling. If you're just focusing on one item, you don't have to worry about different things. You can set up one streamlined testing process, one streamlined photo process, and you don't have to be changing things around for different types of items. And the third major reason is that you can really brand up a store that's just focused on one thing, choose an appropriate eBay name, and even in the future work with certain suppliers or certain people online and advertise that you're purchasing a certain type of product, and they can all be focused into one sort of niche. With all those things in mind, let's jump into the number one thing that I think you can start as a niche store on eBay. And number one will probably come at no surprise to you guys, would be to sell video games. That would include video games, video game consoles, video game accessories, but everything in the video game realm. And you might notice that's what I do. These bins behind me, they're all full to the brim of video games. So why do we like video games? Well, video games, first of all, are fairly straightforward to find. You can find them everywhere. You can source them all over the place. Your friends, thrift stores, eBay, auctions, all these sort of ways you can get them, which is fantastic. They're compact, which makes them easy to store and easy to ship. So, obviously you're not gonna be spending a lot of time packing these things. They're all very similar sizes. And again, they don't take up much room inside your house if you're just trying to store a few and do this part-time. Number three, they have some value. There's certainly some video games out there that hold some high prices. And if you can get your hands on those, you'll be making out with quite a bit of profit here on these small items. Overall though, video games just sort of tick all the boxes, end up being a really great product for selling. You can do them in volume, meaning that you can go for some cheaper ones, maybe through, large online auctions of some store closings or whatever, pick up a whole bunch of video games, and then you can go ahead and just sell them for $4 or $5 each, or you can do them individually, kind of cherry pick your way through, pick out the $10, $20, $30 games, and start listing those on eBay as well. And again, there's usually some pretty good margins on them. A lot of people don't know what these things are worth, and there's a lot of money to be made selling video games on eBay. I currently have an entire eBay store dedicated just to video games. I've got almost 1,000 listings on there, and it does pretty well, so I would recommend looking into it. Okay, number two, another one of my favorites here, and we're gonna want to break this one down, is vintage electronics. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean like 1950s phones and like really old cassette decks or anything like that, although you could definitely include those. This for me is things like VHS players and VCRs. This could be old DVD players. This could be cordless phones like the Panasonic phones and the VTech phones that I've been continuously selling over the last few months now. This could be vintage TV remotes and different controllers for units that you could be selling, stereo remotes, and just sort of any other vintage electronics or even just old electronics. I think old electronics is maybe the better word here. Old electronics that might fall into that category. Oftentimes you can get these things in abundance. Every thrift store has, racks of these things, and a lot of people are too scared to touch them. They don't know if they work or not, they don't know how to fix them, and they don't know what they're valued at. A lot of people, I think, just don't see the value in these at all, but it turns out there's actually quite a bit of value. We've sold VHS players, VCRs, for upwards of $100, and cordless phone bundles for upwards of $60. I mean, there's a lot of money in this stuff if you get the right stuff, and you can often get it for pretty cheap. Even for free sometimes. I mean, the e-waste centers and all the recycling centers for electronics, I mean, they're always getting rid of stuff and people are always donating to them and whatnot, and I'm sure some of that stuff's getting flipped, but a lot of that stuff, I mean, you might have access to in your area. You might be able to figure out how to post an ad on Facebook and get that stuff coming to you instead of going there, which is great because then again, you can resell it, make some money off it, and also it's just, a great thing for the environment. Nevertheless, so fairly niche, and again, you could even go more niche in this, just sell cordless phones, just sell, vintage remotes. You're not gonna have as high of a customer conversion because somebody that's looking for a cordless phone likely isn't also looking for a VCR, but then again, there could be some people that could follow your page if that's what they're into and could really enjoy purchasing from you. Number three here, guys, has got to be books, and I've been looking into books more and more here over the last few days. They fall sort of like video games. I mean, they have that same sort of characteristic of being sort of small to store. I mean, they're a little bit bigger, but yeah, they're pretty small to store and they're pretty small to ship, and again, they're consistent. They're all relatively speaking the same size. So, there's a little bit more abundance of them than video games, which is nice, but overall, I mean, they're sort of the same sort of ballpark. There's no testing involved, which is great. I mean, that's sort of one of the big time-consuming parts of video games, so you could, get some value to that. But if we're talking about home runs, there are definitely some home runs still in the book space. There are books that sell upwards of $50, $60, some hardcover stuff. I've seen some gardening books that do it, some architectural books. There's a ton of stuff. Even textbooks are something that you could look into. I was actually having a DM conversation with somebody on Instagram the other day selling university textbooks and just buying them at the end of the season from students and then flipping them on Amazon or whatever. And, you can make some really good money doing that that kind of stuff. I haven't actually sold too many books on eBay. I may have sold a couple. I've got boxes of it here though next to me on my receiving shelf, and I'm looking at these and I'm thinking there's a lot of money in them. I'm going to be starting to list them here soon, and I'll let you guys know how it goes. If you want to follow that journey, be sure to follow my YouTube channel here, and I'll be doing some videos about it. But that's just another thing that you could really niche down on, sell a whole bunch of books. You can get them in bulk really cheap, and could definitely make some good money on. There's actually a great YouTube channel, Back from Burnout. Millie from Australia has a whole huge bookstore, storage lockers, just thousands of books, and is a great channel to go check out if you're more interested in selling books on eBay. All right, number 4 here, guys. This is selling vintage media. This could be anything from CDs, DVDs to vinyls. Again, I won't go into the specifics because this basically falls in the same categories as video games and books. Again, very compact, easy to ship, and relatively easy to find. But yeah, another one of those things, if you know what you're doing, you can pick up, the really good ones out there, cherry pick them, or you can buy them in bulk and sell them in bulk. But there are quite a few of these that can be worth some good money, especially when you get into the new stuff. Now again, like video games, this is sort of a deteriorating niche to some extent. There are definitely less and less of them in production, obviously, and you're going to be, able to sell them for less and less as time goes on. But I think as of right now, there's still a place for them. And if we're talking about CDs and vinyl, definitely 100%. So you can sort of transition, work your way around the markets there, and figure out what's going to make you the most money. But I think there's still a lot of money in that stuff, and if you know what you're doing again, and you're willing to go spend some time sourcing this kind of stuff out, you can make a lot of money. Number 5 here has got to be shoes. Shoes are one of the favorites for me in terms of different niches that you can sell on eBay. They're available, again, basically everywhere, all the thrift stores that you go with. You can buy them on Marketplace. You could even do sort of the newer end stuff, buy the drops and sell them on StockX and GOAT. The kind of shoes that I've sold, though, have all been used shoes from thrift stores, and these are shoes I'm usually picking up for $10, $15 each, maybe not even that much from a Value Village, and then I'm taking them over to eBay, and I'm usually selling them for, 80 to 100 bucks. It's just ridiculous. But this is something where if you want to, get a little bit of extra money every time that you go to the thrift store, check out the shoe section and start looking up some of the shoes. I've sold a lot of Nike shoes, basketball shoes, things of that nature. I've also sold some higher end designer shoes, and just overall, they're a pretty straightforward thing to do. There's no testing involved. Sure, sometimes you gotta do a little bit of cleaning, you gotta maybe air them out, get the smell out of them. But otherwise, if you don't mind that kind of stuff, then this might be the niche for you because there's a lot of money in it. Okay, next up, guys, is clothing, a really obvious niche, I think, for a lot of resellers. It comes to your mind first when you think about niching down for an eBay store. Clothing is quite a bit of work. I'm just gonna be honest because I've dealt with it before, and at least that's my experience compared to some of these other things I've dealt with. I got the steamer, I got, the photo booth, everything all set up here, but it still took me quite a long time to get all these clothes looking good and photographed, and I think that's one of the most important things to remember here. With the right systems in place, let's say, and the right cherry picking through the stuff that you're sourcing, there's definitely a lot of money to be made here, and I think if you can figure out a system that works for you that's efficient, clothing is a great approach in terms of a niche store on eBay, and again, is something readily available in volume if you wanted to go that route, and overall, just a really great niche if you're looking to be sort of a little bit more involved in what you're selling, maybe willing to put a little bit more time into it than, a part-time gig, but definitely something that you could still do part-time or full-time. There's plenty of people selling clothing part-time, but it's just a little bit more tricky in my opinion. Maybe that's just because I've spent too much time dealing with some of the more simple stuff that I don't mind cleaning or having to fold or trying to get wrinkles out of, but for the most part, clothing is still definitely readily available and easy to sell on eBay, and definitely an important one to mention here in the top 10 niches to sell in. Okay, next up, guys, this one's super underrated, and this has to be the toys niche. There are so many valuable toys out there that are sitting on Value Village shelves, sitting on thrift store shelves, sitting on Kijiji and Facebook Marketplace that people are not buying up, and that can be worth a ton of money on eBay. If you guys have ever sold toys, leave me a comment down below, because I've sold a few here and there. Obviously, I'm dealing with video games, so of course I'm seeing toys come through, but I have not, gone out a day trying to source toys. I think this could be super fun to do. I might even do it for a video, do like a 24-hour toy selling challenge on eBay. But let me know, have you guys sold toys before? Because there's a lot of money in some of them. Obviously, like the Lego stuff can be worth quite a bit. You can also get into some of the vintage Hot Wheels stuff. I think even some of the Barbie doll stuff, the Polly Pockets, or not the Polly Pockets, what are they called? The little animal things. I don't know. I probably know too much about this. I don't know why. I just know all these brands, I guess from being a kid, but what's the little animal ones? Anyway, there's plenty of them, and they sort of come in a whole variety. There's always, some of them sitting at the Value Village shelves. Even board games. Board games are a super big one. New board games, I picked up plenty of them. I think I've sold all of them. Yeah, I'm looking at my board game shelf. They're all gone. I've sold all the board games I've had here. Probably took about 6 months to go through them, but board games are another really important one in terms of if you're dealing with toys, and toys as a whole, though, is just a super underrated niche, and definitely something that I'm gonna be looking into, expanding into in the future, and might be something that you want to look into if you're trying to niche down into a toy store on eBay. Okay, next up is one that I know absolutely nothing about, but this is jewelry and watches. You always go into the Value Village, you see a couple people over at the counter looking through all this stuff, I guess looking for the real silver and gold or whatever whatever it might be. Something that I, again, don't have any experience with and personally have never sold on eBay, but if you know what you're doing with regards to watches and jewelry and you're willing to source through that stuff, you can make a ton of money. I mean, if you run into something out there that could be worth, I don't know, maybe even $10,000, something ridiculous. I mean, you could have one home run that pays for a year's salary. I mean, 10,000 wouldn't probably, but if you get something serious, I'm just saying, there's a lot of valuable jewelry and watches out there, and if you keep your eye out and you know what you're looking for, there's some money to be made in it. Otherwise, though, I mean, just normal volume stuff, buying the sort of more common stuff, I suppose. You could do it through Facebook Marketplace, Kijiji. You could do it through your local thrift stores. You could even do it through storage units and whatever else. But there's a lot of money in that kind of stuff. So keep your eye out. And again, if that's something that you want to get into and start to research, I think you really have to be in this one. You have to know what you're talking about and know what to look for. But if you really know what you're doing, you can make a lot of money here. Okay, next one's got to be musical instruments, music gear. That's also our pro audio stuff, microphones. There's a ton of stuff that goes under the music category, but this is a big one. There's a whole variety of things that you can be flipping on eBay, especially in the pro audio section, whether it's IOs or mixers, or it could be microphones, headsets, all these sort of things that are really expensive usually, and people are always looking to get a discount on, always looking to buy used, and eBay is a place where they go. I think this is a niche where demand way outweighs supply, and I've seen that when I've sold pro audio stuff and musical stuff on eBay. It sells like this. I mean, people pick it up so quickly, it's remarkable. So if you have access to that kind of stuff, again, thrift stores are a great place to look. Probably can't fill a store with it, but if you do a little bit of thrifting, do maybe a little bit of Facebook Marketplace and Kijiji, combine it all, maybe even some local swap shops, pawn shops, and pick up some musical stuff there and flip it on eBay, there is a lot of money in this niche, and again, stuff sells really quick, so it's definitely one to look into. And then there's the instrument side too. I mean, a little bit more tricky probably, but selling guitars and different sorts of instruments is probably another way that you could do it if you're willing to. I know it's a little bit more risky and the shipping's a little scary, but if you know what you're doing, you could do it. Okay, last up, guys, this one is an important one as well that I don't want to forget because it's also super popular these days, and I personally have done a store with it before. I ended up shutting it down, but I still think it's a valuable one to add to the list here. Again, something that you're going to want knowledge on. In fact, all of these I think that I've mentioned are something that you're going to want to, really focus down on and grow your knowledge in terms of your ability to source things and just be able to sell things. But you really want to know what you're talking about when it comes to all these individual niches, and that's why it's important to maybe niche down instead of selling more of a general scope of things, because then you can be really focused and really understand how a certain type of product works, and therefore can deliver a better product actually to your customers. Anyway, the last one here has to be trading cards. So a variety of things here. These could be sports trading cards, these could be Pokemon cards, these could be Yu-Gi-Oh or Magic cards. There's a whole variety of things that you could be selling within the card space, but there are plenty of sellers out there and buyers looking to purchase cards and sell cards. I think there's a lot of hobbyists in this space on eBay, just flipping cards for the fun of it, so they can maybe trade their way up to some other cards. It's essentially just a big trading platform at this point. But if you know what you're doing, again, and can source out the cards, you're probably not getting these from thrift stores, but if you have some friends or you're willing to buy some bulk deals or even buy some new sets like the Pokemon stuff, and go ahead and go through it all and hope you get lucky and maybe end up with a valuable card, there can be a lot of money in this stuff. So again, you have to know what you're doing, you have to know what's worth money and what to look out for. But even garage sales for this stuff, people just unloading, vintage cards, big piles of them. There's some real money in this stuff. So a lot of collectors in this industry, you got to be careful with the condition of them and whatnot, but there's a lot of money in this, and definitely is something that you could definitely create a whole eBay niche store around. Okay, guys, I think that's going to wrap up today's video. I want to just say these are the 10 things that I thought of, and of course there are plenty more niche stores that you could do on eBay. And what I'm curious to know is, what niche store do you guys run? Is it any of the ones that I mentioned here on the list, or is it something else that I didn't think of? Be sure to leave them down below in the comments. I would love to hear what you guys are doing in terms of selling things on eBay, or maybe let me know that you're doing more of a general store and you're not, believing in the whole niche concept, or maybe you're not wanting to run a niche store. But I'd be really curious to know down below, so be sure to let me know in the comments. With that being said, hopefully you guys found some value in this video. If you plan on doing any of these now after hearing this video, be sure to let me know that as well, because that would be awesome to hear. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel if you are new. I will see you guys all in the next video.